Hello! So today we are going to be making 3 recipes. We are going to be making a egg frittata, and you can use whatever ingredients you want for the vegetables in this basic frittata recipe. Basically, you take 8 eggs, and we're going to be adding about a 1/4 cup of milk. We will add 2/3 of a cup of shredded cheese, 2 cups of vegetables that are cooked, that's starting with about 4 cups of raw vegetables, and then add some salt and pepper. You can add whatever vegetables you want: asparagus, peppers, broccoli, mushrooms, onions, tomatoes, kale, spinach, whatever you like. And you can also add optional extras like bacon or sausage. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here. I've got my skillet that is going to be able to be oven safe. So you want something that the handle is able to go into the oven, all right? And we're going to be starting on our stovetop with this. And so what we're going to be doing is first sauteing our vegetables. We're also going to make sure that our oven is set at 350 degrees, and we will be starting on the stovetop and then adding our eggs and then baking it in the oven, all right? And so let's go ahead and get started here. So I'm gonna turn my heat on pretty high and get my pan heated up. And so then we are going to be adding a little olive oil into the frying pan or skillet, whatever you use. If you don't have an oven safe frying pan, then you can go ahead and just fry your stuff or saute your vegetables in a frying pan that's not oven safe, and then transfer it to a dish that is oven safe, and that's really fine too. Like, just kind of think like how you would make a quiche, right? So okay, so we're gonna get that started, heat that up. And I am using, for my vegetables, I'm gonna be sauteing some broccoli. I'm also gonna add some tomatoes, and I'm gonna add some diced peppers. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in my peppers. And we just wanna have about a total of 4 cups raw, all right? So I'm adding about 1/2 cup of peppers. I'm gonna add about 1/2 cup of tomatoes. I'm going to save the rest for the next recipe. And I'm going to give that a good stir. And then I'm also going to be adding some my broccoli. So I'm going to add about, I'm just going to add all of my broccoli in there. Okay. And I'm going to stir that up. And just to speed things up, I'm going to put the lid on. Okay. So while that is cooking, we're going to be getting the rest of our frittata recipe ready here. So what we need is a large bowl, and we are going to be cracking 8 eggs into the bowl. If you don't have eggs, you could also use egg beaters or an liquid egg replacement in the recipe, and it would just be equivalent to 8 eggs, okay? So we're cracking our eggs in here. And even though there has been a crazy increased price of eggs, it is starting to come down again, and buying a whole dozen eggs for about $5 is still a pretty economical way to add protein and act as a protein source in a meal. Another trick is if you're cracking your eggs and you accidentally get a piece of shell in your eggs, what you can do is basically take your finger and you want to just wet it with water. And then you can just go ahead and push down on whatever you think is the shell, and then it will be very easy to remove that, all right? And sometimes there's like little flecks of things in there that we just want to remove. Okay, so we've got our 8 eggs in the bowl, and now we're going to go ahead and add about 2 ounces or a 1/4 cup of milk. I'm using oat milk, but you can use whatever milk you want. And then we're also going to add, I'm going to add a little salt and pepper. And then you can use a fork, you can use a whisk, whatever works for you. And we're just going to whisk this up so that it's all stirred up. So go ahead and pop your yolks. And you just want to make this all consistent so that the eggs are all stirred up. Kind of similar to what you would do if you were making scrambled eggs. Okay. So while that is ready, the vegetables are still cooking. They have to cook for about, I would say, 6 to 10 minutes until they're soft enough. So I'm going to put that aside, and we'll move on to our next recipe, which is our cowboy caviar. All right. First, I'm just going to give the vegetables a stir. We really want them nice and soft before we put this in the oven. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Our next recipe is cowboy caviar. So we need 15 ounces or 1 can of black beans, 15 ounces of black-eyed peas. If you don't have that, you can use any other type of legume. I'm using chickpeas, for example, and then 15 ounces of corn. All of your cans have been opened and drained. And then we are going to be adding our bell peppers and our diced tomatoes. Okay. We're also going to add some diced cilantro. All right, about a 1/4 cup, and then we're going to make our dressing. So I'm just going to use this bowl, and I'm going to go ahead and dump everything in. So I'm going to dump in the corn. I'm going to dump in the chickpeas or your black-eyed peas and the black beans. And we'll give this a good mix. And so this is a great side recipe as a salad. It's really rich in protein and fiber as well. And when we think about where this falls in the balanced plate model, it's kind of a mixture of a low glycemic carbohydrate with our legumes and a moderate glycemic carbohydrate with our corn, right? And then we're adding a little vegetables, which are our green light vegetables from the tomatoes. But this is going to be our side dish to go along with the egg frittata. The frittata is loaded with vegetables, and then the egg itself is our protein. So this kind of balances out the meal. Go ahead and add our tomatoes, and we'll mix in the cilantro that's finely chopped. That really adds a specific flavor. Okay, give this a good stir again. We're also going to be adding a little lime juice, about a 1/4 cup, and we're also going to add about a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar. So I'm going to measure that out. Okay, and we're going to add also about a clove of diced or finely minced garlic. So I've got my garlic here. I'm just going to put it together as a bunch, and I'm just going to finely slice it. Careful of your fingers. And then make that into a little pile and go over it again. You can just use this rocking motion with your knife, and that helps to just keep it straight and in a line while you're chopping. And just keep going over the pile again, back and forth until it's finely diced. we're just going to mix that in. Okay. And we're also going to add about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. I'm just going to kind of count 1, 2, 3, 4. A 1/4 cup is about 4 tablespoons, so that's another hint. And then finally, we are just going to add a little salt. About a teaspoon. Mix that up, and that is ready. So that is going to be our side dish of our cowboy caviar. It's really delicious. Okay, I'm just going to clean up here for a second and get ready for our 3rd recipe. All right, but meanwhile, back to our frittata. We've got our vegetables are perfect, so I'm going to turn that off. And I'm just going to show you on the screen what that looks like. Okay. And so I'm going to give that a good stir. And the next phase that we will do is to just add our egg. Okay. So I'm mixing the egg mixture right in. Okay. And we'll just use a spoon and spread that out. Just kind of push your vegetables down so that they're covered with the egg. Perfect. Okay, and then we're just going to top that with some shredded cheese. You can use whatever type of cheese you want, all right? And I'm just going to give that a good topping here. Looks pretty good. Okay, and so now that is going to go into the oven, and the frittata is going to bake for about 15-ish minutes. We'll know like when it's set, when the egg is really set and not jiggly, that's when we're going to take it out, okay? All right. Okay, so that's all set, and now we're going to move on to our 3rd delicious recipe. That is our high-protein cheesecake recipe, all right? And so these are mini cheesecakes, so we're going to be using little ramekins that are look like that, okay? It's helpful to have some spray oil if you can do that. Otherwise, you can oil these with a little vegetable oil or even olive oil, but something light, right? Because so you really don't want to add a lot of flavor, all right? And so to this, I'm just going to move these to the side for a second. We're going to need our blender for this recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over. And here comes the blender. All right. So we've got our blender here, and we're going to be adding about a cup of cottage cheese. We're going to be adding about 5 ounces of yogurt, and I'm using vanilla Greek yogurt. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pour that in, and then also pour our yogurt in. So I've got my yogurt here. Also into the blender, we're going to be adding 1 more egg. That's going to help this set when it goes into the oven. Crack that right in there. Okay. And then for flavor, you can add about, actually you can add, if you want, if you are not using sweetened yogurt, you can add a small amount of honey. But if you feel like your yogurt is sweet enough, which I'm using this vanilla yogurt that has enough sweetener in it, I'm just going to keep this plain. So I'm going to go ahead and put the top on this, and we just want to blend this together. Let's see, it's the right way here. Okay, here we go. Out so that you can all see. So now when we open this up, this is all nice and smooth, okay? And what we're going to do is prepare our little ramekins with our spray oil. And so I'm just going to go ahead and spray the sides. We're just going to go ahead and pour this in. This makes 2 servings. Okay. And that is going to go ahead and go into the oven. I'm just going to put that on a cookie sheet, so that it's easy to pull in and out of the oven. Okay, and then we'll be back. All right, so we are back now, and the frittata has come out of the oven. And the way that you can really tell when the frittata is done is that the cheese is all melted, it's not jiggly at all, and it's ready to be sliced. And so I'm going to go ahead and just show you what that looks like. The cheesecake also, for my cheesecake, it took a little longer, about 25 minutes. And so coming out of the oven, it kind of looks a little jiggly still, but it's lightly golden on the top. And then we're going to place those in the refrigerator to chill for about an hour. This is one of the chilled versions of it. And so then we're going to be able to top that with some fresh berries. And this cheesecake recipe, because it's made with cottage cheese and Greek yogurt, it really could be eaten for a snack. It could even be eaten for not only dessert, but for breakfast. It's really a very versatile recipe and individual servings in the ramekins, right? So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to serve and show you what this finished product looks like on the plate. So we've got our frittata here. I'm just going to cut it just like you would cut a pizza. And so cut it first in quarters, and then you can cut it in 8ths. So this does make 8 servings, and each serving would be equivalent to 1 egg. And so if you're a bigger person and you need more protein, you certainly could have 2 of the slices, and that would be equivalent to 2 eggs and also more vegetables. And then we're going to scoop out one of the pieces, put it on the plate here. That looks really delicious. And then we're going to serve that alongside our cowboy caviar, all right? And so about a 1/2 cup serving is a good amount. And then we can have our delicious cheesecake on the side. And that is a wonderful meal, and I hope you all enjoy.